What's up, builders? This is Raise the Bar Radio, where we talk about building wealth, raising capital, and all in all, raising the bar in your business and your life. This is the No BS podcast for capital raisers, investors, and entrepreneurs who are serious about scaling their business and living life on their own terms. I'm Seth Bradley, securities attorney, real estate investor, and entrepreneur, bringing you world-class strategies from the best in the game. If you're ready to raise more capital, close bigger deals, build a better you, and create true financial freedom, you're in the right place. Let's go. Welcome to Raise the Bar with me, your host, Seth Bradley, where we have elevated conversations on raising capital, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Today, we have an incredible guest, Joe Fairless. If you've been living under a rock, then maybe you haven't heard of Joe, but everybody in my industry knows Joe as an industry leader, a thought leader, real estate entrepreneur extraordinaire, marketer, master marketer, all of the above. So Joe, welcome to the show.
Looking forward to our conversation, Seth.
For sure, man. So, I like this question because it's kind of unusual and I have a hard time answering it, and you might too, but we'll see. So, when a stranger asks you what you do and it just comes up to you, maybe at a conference or on the streets, what do you say?
Say I buy apartment buildings.
I love it. Keeping it simple, man. I guess there was an easier answer than I anticipated.
I've been to, in my early days, I went to seminars, and they have much longer, more thought-provoking responses. Like, I help high-income earners create passive income, or just something along those lines. But I keep it simple. I buy apartment buildings and then let the conversation go where it naturally would go.
I love that, man. Yeah, and to be honest, that response that you just mentioned is a little bit played out, don't you think? I feel like if you're on LinkedIn or if you're on conferences, everybody's like, yeah, I raise capital from passive investors so I can help them do this and do that. Do you think that's a little bit played out? Do you think that people need to kind of change that marketing strategy at this point?
I think you should just be authentic.
Sure.
I think just go with what feels right for you, and what you'll enjoy talking about. Go with what feels right for you. That's what I do. I am not a salesy person. I feel uncomfortable if I'm trying to sell someone something. I believe in what I do, but I feel uncomfortable if I'm trying to force it. And so if I'm like, I was just at a dad-daughter dance this past Sunday, and we met up with some couples that I didn't know any of them. It was just couples that my daughter goes to their parents of the kids who go to school with my daughter. And so I was talking to one of the dads, and he said, "What do you do?" I said, "I buy apartment buildings." And he said, "Oh, that's interesting." Then we started talking about what I do, because he was naturally interested, and I enjoy that much more than trying to intentionally bait a hook.
Yeah.
I just rather just have a conversation.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? Especially in today's world where everything's online and you just get marketed to and advertised to all the time. You've got to be authentic, and you need to have an elevator pitch, but it's got to be authentic. It's got to be really who you are, and it can't be salesy because people are so sensitive to that nowadays. Whether you're raising capital or whether you're W-2 doing your job, and we're all salespeople to a certain extent, whatever we do. But people are very sensitive to that. So you've got to really focus on being authentic and coming from a place of genuineness.
Nobody in the world can do you like you do you.
Yeah.
Right. You've got a unique strand of DNA that no one else can be the Seth Bradley that you are, the Joe Fairless that I am, because it's impossible. It's impossible. There is no one like you. There is no one like me. And it's just the more magnetic, the more genuine and true to who I am, the more magnetic I feel like I become, because people enjoy authenticity, and it's just the right way to play it, right way to do it.
Totally. Totally. For our audience, just tell us what you're doing nowadays. I mean, there's been kind of some changes in the market with the interest rates going up, those sorts of things, maybe starting in towards the end of 2022. I know for myself, I was in the capital raising game for a number of years, and then I kind of slowed down there towards the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, just to kind of see like what the market was going to do, just to see if we could still get some really good deals going, see if some of the other deals were going bad. What are you up to nowadays? Like, what's your focus right now?
The focus has been and always will be on our current portfolio and the deals that we have and operating those deals the best that we can and continuing to improve the NOI. So that is the focus. There we have some deals that have floating rates with rate caps, and the focus is to figure out how not to have floating rate with rate caps that you have to continue to renew once they expire. So that comes with refinancing, and in order to refinance, and sometimes you have to do a capital call, or if you don't do a capital call, you got to bring in equity in some form or fashion to refinance. In some cases, it just depends on the deal. So the focus is on the portfolio and always will be. And then the secondary the secondary thing that we look at is acquisitions. How do we capitalize on the market that where we're at right now? I mean, it's the best way to describe it that I've read is it's stagnant. It's just not sure. The water, there's stuff growing in the water, but not sure if you really want to be part of what's growing in the water right now. It's stagnant, and but we also know what is coming, and that is the supply-demand shift in multifamily's favor. Depends on the submarket and the market, obviously. But generally, the Sun Belt is going to greatly benefit in the next year and a half, in some cases 6 months from now, with the supply-demand dynamic, with new supply drying up and they're increasing the demand for the existing supply. Again, depends on the market, depends on the submarket. So how do we capitalize on that? Plus, is there any way to be opportunistic with what's happening with some deals from other operators that didn't work out? There haven't been a lot of foreclosures, but there have been some. And we have relationships with our lenders that are pretty strong. And in fact, a large lender that we have a really good relationship with, that we have properties with, they foreclosed on someone else's deal. And I won't name names on who they foreclosed on, but they foreclosed on someone else's deal, and they came to us afterward and said, "Hey, here's an opportunity. It's in a great area, Fort Worth, and I'm from Fort Worth, so I we have a lot of property there too. But I know the market also. I grew up there, and we'll give you this special financing of around 3% or so interest rate, fixed interest rate for year one, and then it's fixed through the whole period of the loan. But then the interest rate steps up to around 4.5% over the 5 years. So to get that type of essentially seller financing, but it's lender financing direct from the lending institution that foreclosed on the deal, in a very good area of Fort Worth. There are opportunities out there also. So it's how do we become opportunistic and find these deals? And so we're in the process of closing on that deal, or doing due diligence on that deal. We're under contract, and we're scheduled to close in about a month and a half from now.
Awesome. Have you found it difficult at any point in time, kind of over these last couple of years, where the market has slowed down?
Whatever you're going to say, yes. So finish your question, but the answer is yes. Yes, I found it difficult over the last couple of years, but what exactly are you asking about that's difficult?
Sure. Specifically, I should say sticking with multifamily, because you are a multifamily guy. And, you know, you've seen where everyone, you know, everybody wanted that on that multifamily train for, you know, a decade, if not longer. And now you've seen a lot of these same people change their tune and say, okay, well, you know what, let's pivot to something else. Let's pivot to, you know, car washes or private credit funds or all these other things.
I know you're an attorney, but can I strike my yes actually from that question? Because no, actually the answer is no. I haven't found it difficult to stick with multifamily. Hell no. You know, you go to a restaurant at a diner and they offer lasagna, California roll, and what else? Pad Thai. You know, are they going to have the best lasagna, California roll, and pad thai? No. They've got something for everyone, but they're not going to be great at any of it. Yeah, I'd rather go to an Italian restaurant that makes their own noodles, right? Makes their own pasta, and where they specialize in one thing. Not at all. No, I believe in the fundamentals of multifamily. I believe in the supply demand that is here. I mean, we had a record number of supply across the board in multifamily, and the occupancy maintained 91%, depending on the market, but it maintained in the 90s in a record number of supply. And oh, by the way, at the same time, you got, you know, the capital markets raising interest rates the way they did, and a lot of people have been able to hold serve, and the fundamentals of the supply demand and how many renters there are out there and how that will continue is there. And that's cold hard facts. Like that there is demand, a lot of demand, and there will continue to be even more demand because of the supply is trailing off. So we have never looked outside of multifamily because it's so strong, and I think that is a cultural thing actually, because anyone who's into sports, college sports, they'll know about the NIL and how you can bounce from one team to another year after year. And so you'll find some people who aren't starting, and if they put in the work, then, and I'm for NIL. I think players should be paid, but I don't think that I don't think they should. I don't think it serves them as young men and young women, mostly young men in this case, who are bouncing from place to place, to not compete and not work for a starting position, and instead just go somewhere else, the path of least resistance. That's not how you build character. There's a really there's a really good book. It's called The Road to Character. And they talk about, in the book, they give different examples of people throughout history. And they're not exceptional, like saintly people. They're people who are normal people, but what they did that is atypical for what our culture does now is they stuck with things even when it was tough. And instead of bouncing from thing to thing, because what happens is when you bounce from thing to thing, you don't get an expertise, you don't get the depth of knowledge, the scars that you need in order to be truly exceptional at that one thing. And it's just surface level. And you know, it'd be like if you feed your kids candy for every meal. I mean, it's the same thing. You can't live on mental candy, right? You gotta have some substance. You gotta go through things.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love that metaphor. I love that. Like, you've got to get reps, whether the times are great or easy, or whether they're hard. And those hard reps are the ones that are really gonna set you up for success down the line. Like if you're able to execute in the hard times, then when times turn good again, you're going to be at the top, right? You're going to be cream of the crop. What do you think it is about you and maybe your company that's enabled you to do that, to stick to multifamily and not say, ooh, you know what? Like I'm a really good marketer, so I can raise capital for anything if I really want to, right? You're in that position. And what is it about you and your company that's been able to allow you to stick to multifamily and, just stick to it during these hard times?
Oh, the fundamentals are there.
Yeah.
I mean, you could make an argument that if we were office investors, and I have some friends who are really keen on investing in office now and in the future, but you could very easily make an argument that with the amount of office space that people have currently, you don't need as much of that space. Like it's not a 3 to 5 to 7 year play. Maybe it's a 20 to 50 year play. I don't know. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with office and working from home and AI and automation and all that. But with multifamily, it's the challenge is capital markets. Now there are some other aspects like the hyper supply, which has tapered off because of the higher interest rates, increase in insurance, which has tapered off back to the single digits by and large, but that was a big thing. Property taxes, depending on where you're at, but the fundamentals are there. People are renting, and consumers unfortunately for the general consumer, their credit card debt is going up. They're still paying off their credit card debt from purchases almost 12 months ago. More than half of people are paying off purchases from more than 12 months ago. And so right now they've been out earning their income because income has been increasing. But what happens if that income stops increasing the way it has been? The debt's not going anywhere, especially credit card debt. And that's certainly not going to make more first-time home buyers, that dynamic. So the fundamentals are there, and not to mention we already have a housing shortage, major deficit.
Pardon the interruption, but we don't do ads. Instead, know that if you're raising capital for real estate, my law firm, Raise Law, is here to give you the expert legal guidance you need to raise capital compliantly and structure and close your deal. And if you're looking for a done-for-you fund-to-fund solution, TribeVest is the industry's only all-in-one setup and fund administration solution. Visit raise.law and tribevest.com to learn more. Yeah. So it's the belief and it's the knowledge, like it's the education. Like you know that the fundamentals are there. You're basing your resilience in the market to what you're seeing in the data. Like, hey, it's we believe in this asset type because of the data that I'm well educated and well versed in.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Has anything changed in the way that you potentially, because you got a deal that might be going through, in the way that you either have raised capital recently or how you are going to raise capital for your next deal as compared to when it might have been a little bit easier, let's say 5 years ago, from passive investors?
Yes, we have implemented a system that I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard of, EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, and that has been very helpful. We just did our focus day a month ago, but we've hit the ground running, and we have our, I think, Vision Day Part 1 later this month and Vision Day 2 next month. And that has allowed ownership among the team members to really thrive, because team members are responsible for rocks or their goals, but if you say goals instead of rock, the EOS person will slap your hand. So I'll just continue to say rock. So they're responsible for rocks, and it's just, it takes more. The individuals on the team have more ownership. So that's not something sexy or flashy that I think your question was getting to. So I'll say something else that has been helpful. Would be doing Facebook ads for getting new accredited investor leads at scale. That's the best way that we found to get accredited investor leads at scale is through Facebook ads. And we have an agency that we work with and I just hired a director of marketing who has some really good experience, and he's overseeing them and the marketing team. And then another thing that has been helpful that I'd say just scratching the surface. I'm a big proponent of AI and how I believe we are in the middle of a major change for our society because of AI. I think it is just as major of a change as when we all got internet in our homes on a personal computer. I think it's that big to have access to, just think about, phone books to Googling something on your computer. So with AI, we've incorporated it and are incorporating as much as possible in one aspect to address your question about how we're doing things differently. One aspect is that, on our investor calls, our prospective investor calls, we record them. They know, it's being recorded and on a recorded line. And we have an AI service that then takes the information from the call and grades the call. But then not only that is we look at, which ones of those investors invest? What did we say? What did they say on those calls? What are some commonalities? Which ones didn't invest? And what did they say? What did we say? And starting to identify trends and words and topics to talk about and to address on the calls to increase the conversion rate.
That's great, man. I love it. You kind of went full circle there. You've got EOS, which I'm a huge proponent of. We use that across the various companies that I have, some form or another. There's got to be a framework of organization and accountability, and being able to look back and say, hey, we've had this problem before, and here's how we solved it before, or hey, this problem is still occurring from last week's L10 meeting. Like what do we need to do to improve it? How do we solve that issue? How do we keep moving forward, rather than, oh, what did we talk about last week, or what did we talk about last month? You've got to have a way to organize things and a way to solve issues organizationally, especially as you grow. So EOS, huge proponent of it, man. I mean, it's awesome. Like, you have to have some form of it, even if it's not to a T with the book. Traction is where that comes from. You have to implement some form of organization and framework for your company. And then, like you said, with AI, everyone has to stay on the forefront of what's going on right now. I know I was even a little resistant myself. I was like, oh, ChatGPT, what is that? And put it off for a little bit. And then once you start using that, along with all of the other things as well, I'm just using that as kind of a baseline, but just learning how to use ChatGPT in your everyday life, it's just a game changer, because now your whole thought process changes. It's not like, oh, I need to put together this entire article or blog post. It's like, how do I prompt it correctly to produce this blog post or this article in my voice, and then edit it through that, or all these different things. You figure out like how to prompt rather than how to actually take the solution all the way from start to finish. Let that technology tell you how to do it. So it's awesome. And then Facebook ads as well. You've got to really dial those things in, right? Like, it can be a money pit, but at the same time, if you can master that, and it sounds like you hired an agency that's very industry specific, which helps out a lot. And from what I've seen, we have gyms, we have a capital raising business, we have all these different things, and finding somebody that's niche to that industry is super important.
That's right.
I'd love to go back and stay on this capital raising subject, especially for people that just started out. So like now you're doing EOS, now you're using AI, now you're using Facebook ads. You have some capital to be able to invest in those ads. What about for somebody that's just kind of starting out, or they're, maybe this is their first fund of fund, or, their first property that they're raising capital for? Like, how do they effectively launch their first capital raise?
I would read the book that I wrote on syndication, because I walked through the whole process of that best ever syndication book. But for this relatively short conversation, I'd say first, you have to make sure that people perceive you, and you are actually a real estate expert, and that, because you might have been, if it's your first deal, then I'm assuming you came from some other industry, or if it was real estate, maybe you're a property manager. They don't know about all aspects of your expertise as it relates to real estate. So you've got to, by having a thought leadership platform, you'll interview others who have that experience. You'll continue to learn, hone your skills, and then you'll also be associated with those who have those skill sets, and that will be helpful for you. Once you do that, assuming that you are the expert and you are also perceived as the expert, then what I would do, and what I did actually on my very first one, is I created a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet had the name of the person, how I knew them, and then what I did is I wrote down all the different names and then how I knew them. So for example, I was on the alumni advisory board for Texas Tech. I was on a flag football team in New York. I wrote someone's name down who's there on my flag football team. I had I was working at different companies, or I worked at different companies, so I wrote down different coworkers at different companies. And the key here for doing it this way is identifying the person. So then you sort them by how you know them. So all the people from the flag football team would be sorted together. All the people from XYZ company would be sorted together. And then you identify the most influential person within that group, and you talk to him or her about your opportunity. And once you talk to him or her about the opportunity, and if they find it appealing, or at least they want to learn more about it, then you can go to the next person in that group and you can name check. You can say, oh, well, I was just talking to Seth about this, and he's got some follow-up questions about it, and I thought it also would make sense to talk to you about it too. So then you come in a little warm with the group dynamic versus if you come in cold on an individual level.
I like that, man. That's a very nuanced strategy tidbit there. What I really heard was authenticity and authority. Authenticity in that, you've got to educate yourself. You've got to be a real estate expert if that's what you're raising capital for, and authority. And then you've got to show people, why you're the expert, why you know all these things, why they should listen to you to invest in something like this, and even leveraging the authority of others with that strategy where you go to this influential person and say, look, this person likes this deal too, and here's why. And then they can go to them and they kind of look to them as additional authority, because they kind of look to them as that thought leader, or that leader in general. So pretty great, man. start wrapping this up, but this is kind of a nuanced question that I love to ask, and because once upon a time I went to med school for a little while, and then I dropped out, and because I hated it and knew it wasn't for me, and I'm going to law school and then got into real estate. So in a parallel universe, tell me about a different version of you, a different but likely version of you if you didn't exist as you do today. Because right now, you're an apartment buyer, you're a great marketer, you're an entrepreneur.
I'd say I really enjoy coaching my daughter in soccer. I do not know soccer. I grew up in Texas. I played football. I played baseball. I ran track in that order. There wasn't a soccer option or maybe even a soccer ball in Texas when I was growing up. But I enjoy coaching, and in an alternative universe, I would do more of that because time is the flies whenever I'm doing that.
Awesome. All right, Joe. For our listeners out there, where can they find out more about you? Great. Yeah, I'll drop that in the show notes, and I'll see you there, Joe. So we'll shake hands in person. So
awesome.
Thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Raise the Bar Radio. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Keep pushing, keep building, and keep raising the bar. Until next time, enjoy the journey.